Welcome back to Wrestling Talk. I am your host, Alexis Carrillo, and it is time for another edition of Wrestling Talk right here on the YouTube channel. So if you're joining us on this video, I thank you so much. I appreciate you all. And, well, I don't know what we're going to talk about. I mean, ever since Monday, there hasn't been really anything newsworthy in terms of wrestling news that have lit the IWC and the wrestling news world on fire. There really hasn't been. Except for the fact that apparently there was a big controversy surrounding Monday Night Raw prior to Monday Night Raw, prior to everything that transpired on that show. Apparently, I don't know if you've heard this, but apparently current WWE Women's Tag Team Champions Sasha Banks and Naomi walked out of a WWE show. They were scheduled, they were booked to be in the main event of Monday Night Raw. According to reports online, they were scheduled to have a six-pack challenge or gauntlet match where they were going to determine the number one contender to Bianca Belair's Raw Women's Championship. And due to creative differences, they weren't really happy with what was going to go down during that match. Now, other reports state that Sasha Banks and Naomi were scheduled to have an interaction or have a match with their future challengers for the tag team titles in the brand new team of Doudrop and Nikki ASH. Neither of those two have been confirmed, apparently. Not to my knowledge. If I'm mistaken, go ahead and correct me in the comments section below. But all of this seems to be in terms of creative. Apparently, the boss, Sasha Banks and Naomi, the current tag team champions, they got wind of what was about to happen, what was about to go down at Monday Night Raw. And apparently, they didn't like the direction that their characters were heading in terms of WWE TV. And so they walked straight into the head of relations office for WWE, Mr. John Laurinaitis, and according to reports, again, this is all pretty much hearsay, they left the tag team titles there and they walked out of Monday Night Raw, and the writers of Raw and everybody involved with producing the show on Monday night had to rewrite the show and had to come up with, I believe it was Becky Lynch versus Asuka. That turned out to be the main event of Monday Night Raw. But again, there's a lot of controversy out here because WWE has only released a statement in terms of what transpired during Monday Night Raw. In that statement, they stated that Sasha Banks and Naomi were informed that they were to have a main event match, that they were advertised for the main event match against two or more opponents that they had worked with before in the past, and they had shown no difficulty working with in the past. And apparently, Sasha Banks and Naomi took it into their own matters, and they left. They walked out of the company. They left. They took off, resulting in WWE having to reschedule, rewrite, and pretty much, in this statement, apologize to the WWE Universe and to whoever bought a ticket to that show on Monday Night Raw because the advertised main event match involving the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions did not take place. Since then, the WWE has not put out an official statement on what's going to happen with the Women's Tag Team Championships, on what's going to happen with Sasha Banks and with Naomi. Current reports state that they are not present for SmackDown tonight. So, yeah. It's been 4 or 5 days. Tons of hours. Tons of speculation from fans. Tons of backstage reports and rumors of what might happen. What might be the reasoning. Which side do you take? I'm sure a lot of you wrestling fans out there have already picked sides. And the issue with this is that much like a few months ago when Mustafa Ali asked for his release from the company and was denied his release from the company, when there was some creative differences on their part, and Mustafa Ali did not want to participate with whatever creative direction they thought his character was supposed to head onto. A lot of fans took sides back then. But again, the thing here is, the main dilemma here is that neither WWE or Sasha Banks or Naomi are in the wrong. They are both in the absolute right. And the reasoning behind this is very, very simple. The WWE is a sports entertainment company. They're a business. They have a structure. They're famously and infamously called by the IWC, they're called the Machine for a reason. Meaning that you know how things go down in WWE. There might be some kind of turmoil, there might be some kind of chaos like there is everywhere else, because sometimes you can't help that from happening. But overall, there's a structure, there's a direction, and there's always one guy, one man in charge and calling the shots when it comes to WWE. So, if WWE is about to make a creative direction, a creative decision in terms of where they want this story to go, that's what they're going to do. That's where they're going to go. Now, they might be able to tweak it. They might be able to modify it to fit the competitor if the competitor or the superstar in question has some kind of pull backstage, which I would assume Sasha Banks would have. But overall, WWE works in a certain way that doesn't allow for things to just be ripped out of the blue and just be rewritten, other than by the express direction, by the express mandate of current WWE CEO and chairman of the board, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. So that's how WWE structures things. That's how they work things out. And then you have the case of Sasha Banks and Naomi, who are contracted by WWE. They are paid. They are given a certain lump amount of money for their services in WWE, even though they are positioned as independent workers. They are still considered WWE employees, and as such, most of the time, they should follow whatever WWE asks them to do, asks them to perform. That should be the case. They should be able to just say, yes, I'll do what you want me to do. I work for you. This is how this company works. Let's go ahead and do this. On the other hand, like I said, Sasha Banks and Naomi, they're human beings. They're independent workers working for the WWE. If they don't want to do something, there's nobody in hell that's going to force them to do something. So if they have creative differences, if they're not feeling well, if they just want to walk out of the company, they are completely within their right to do so, because that's just how this type of stuff, this type of job, and pretty much any job, works. If you don't want to do something, you can't be forced into doing something at that time and at that moment, and that's what Sasha Banks and Naomi did. Now, with that said, WWE can take legal action depending on their contracts or how their contracts are structured with Sasha Banks and Naomi. Will they? I doubt it, because like I said, these two superstars in particular, Sasha Banks and Naomi, they are big merchandise sellers, big merchandise movers for WWE. Vince McMahon knows that. Every single fan out there knows that. And they also know that if they were to take legal action, if they were to fire or release Sasha Banks and Naomi from their contracts, yes, they would both be under 90-day no-compete clauses from being able to go someplace else. But you bet your bottom dollar, you bet your ass that after those 90 days are up, AEW specifically is going to come knocking and trying to strengthen their subpar women's division. And Sasha Banks and Naomi, they're top tier talents that can move business for you and that they can perform in that ring. So again, on that point, just on that point, WWE that's why they're being cautious in terms of what do they do with this situation. Apparently there's also rumors that both Naomi and Sasha Banks' contracts may be coming up and that they were in talks to renew and re-up those deals. So what they did on Monday night might have just complicated all of those talks. So like I said, they both had rights in terms of doing what they did. WWE can fire them because of what they do. There's no problem about that, but there will be repercussions in the very near future if they do so, and that's not something that WWE wants. And Sasha Banks and Naomi, they're not happy. They're not content with the creative direction. Okay, you're performers, you're workers, you work for the WWE. You can go someplace else. You can go to Impact Wrestling, you can go to AEW, you can go to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and have some sort of creative direction if you want. But the platform that WWE offers you, the money that WWE offers you, the opportunities that WWE offers you, and the quality of life, the quality of career that WWE offers you, you won't find anywhere else. So they also have to think about that. Now there are a lot of fans out there who are pretty much just stating that fire them. That's not something that they should have done. Or they're completely in their right to be able to walk out of WWE if that's not what they want to do. And like I said, they are completely correct in that matter. But again, WWE is also within their right to take legal action, to fire them, to keep them on a contract, to freeze their contract until they start performing just like they've done in the past with Mustafa Ali, with Neville, and with many, many more in the past. WWE is completely within their right. And the last thing WWE, Sasha Banks, Naomi, everyone involved, and wrestling fans want is for this to get worse, for this to get even more ugly. So with that said, I'm hoping this comes to a conclusion very, very soon. There are also rumors that WWE might just retire the Women's Tag Team Championships, which wouldn't be that far of a stretch because, like I said, there isn't much competition in that Women's Tag Team division. There's 1, 2, or maybe even 3 just thrown together tag teams currently in the division, and from that point, you can understand why Sasha Banks and Naomi might be upset that they haven't been able to build that division, or WWE hasn't been wanting to put that division up as a priority when you got 2 of your biggest stars as champions, and that the direction that they're taking a month and a half after winning those tag titles at WrestleMania, it hasn't been the best. So with that said, what do you think about this entire situation? Do you think it's going to get resolved anytime soon? Are you hoping it gets resolved anytime soon? Leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions on the comments section below. And just like earlier in the show, we talked about Mustafa Ali and the fact that he wanted to have his release granted from WWE earlier this year after, 2 months of not being on WWE TV, and then pitching, apparently, reports of him pitching his own stories, his new character to WWE, and them rejecting that notion, them rejecting any type of ideas that Mustafa Ali had at that time. And so Mustafa Ali pretty much took matters into his own hands, went on social media and asked, and pretty publicly asked, for his release from WWE, which, again, as we all know right now, WWE has, or at the time, declined to grant that release. Fast forward, 4, almost 5 months now, Mustafa Ali makes his return to Monday Night Raw, which was shocking in and of itself because, like I said, a lot of fans out there thought that Mustafa Ali was just going to have his contract frozen up for a bit, and then eventually, since he wasn't going to be an active member of the roster, since he wasn't going to be an active member of WWE storylines, WWE was just going to give in and grant him his release, and we would eventually see Mustafa Ali be the 200th debut on AEW TV in 2022, which obviously did not happen because he's currently in a program with, I believe, Theory and The Miz and Tommaso Ciampa, and like I said, he's been put, at least on WWE television, in a prime position. Fans want Mustafa Ali to succeed. They want to cheer this guy because he's just that damn good. He's just that damn talented. He's proven it in the past. The guy can go in that ring. He's had some great moments in his WWE career. Let's not forget that he was about to win the 2019 Money in the Bank ladder match, and apparently there were rumors that he was going to win that match before they had Brock Lesnar just hijack the entire thing. Earlier that same year, he was scheduled to be in the Elimination Chamber match in February of 2020, but got injured, and that led to Kofi Mania being resurrected for that year's edition of the grandest stage of them all. So overall, and then he was the leader of... Damn, I forgot that stable's name that just caused havoc during WWE TV for the start of the pandemic. I'm sorry, I'm blanking out on that name. But overall, Mustafa Ali has proven in the past he can go. He's talented. He has ideas. He's able to be a creative type, and now he's back on WWE TV. He's been, like I said, doing some great segments with Ezekiel, which, by the way, I love the fact that WWE has really dug into that dual deception in terms of Elias and Ezekiel on WWE TV, but we'll get to that on a separate show and another time. But overall, Mustafa Ali is proof that maybe in the very near future, Sasha Banks and Naomi can just patch things up with WWE. They could come up with a better solution than what they did on Monday Night Raw, which, like I said earlier, was completely unprofessional, but also completely within their right. So, sometimes cooler heads must prevail, and that's, I'm assuming that's what happened with Mustafa Ali and WWE right now. I'm guessing Ali was tired of just sitting out at home, not being an active member of the roster, not being a part of the storylines, and creative just pitched him something, and he took it and ran with it. And like I said, if you want a certain outlook on life, you want a certain outlook on a career, then you got to go with the fact that, okay, they give you something. It might not be the best. It might be one of the worst things you've ever gotten. But hey, you got to take it with a positive attitude, and you got to turn it into your own. You got to give it a positive spin. You got to work with it. And eventually, if you want to work with it, and if you want to really embrace it and make it your own rather than something that they pitched at you that you didn't like, hey, you never know. It might get over, and you might get popular, and you might start getting some pull backstage, and then that's when you start having some creative sway in terms of decisions. But until then, super happy that Mustafa Ali is back on WWE TV again. Very talented guy. Nobody doubts that. So can't wait and see what goes on. As a matter of fact, I'm hoping they start positioning him as a challenger for the U.S. title, and eventually have Theory drop the title to Mustafa Ali. That's a very real possibility. I wouldn't mind it. And yeah, all I have to say is, what do you think about Mustafa Ali's return so far? Do you think it's worked out for the best? Do you think that he should have gotten his release? Do you think that Ali's return to WWE TV is proof that Sasha Banks and Naomi can work things out with WWE management? Leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions on the comment section below. And speaking of WWE management, yesterday, I believe, via social media, via Twitter, current WWE chief brand officer, I believe. I believe she's in charge of branding for the WWE. Stephanie McMahon, daughter of WWE Chairman Vincent Kennedy McMahon, released a statement, or pretty much just tweeted out that as of tomorrow, which turns out to be today, May 20th of 2022, she would be taking a leave of absence from her duties as Chief Brand Officer of WWE, which came as a shock to a lot of wrestling fans out there. Because at this point, WWE's top management, in terms of real power positions, is just Mr. Khan. I'm sorry, I'm blanking out on his first name. But you've also got Vince McMahon, and now Shane McMahon is gone. Triple H, unfortunately, due to health circumstances, is unable to perform his duties. And now Stephanie McMahon pretty much is taking a leave of absence to be with her family, which is completely understandable, given the fact that just a few months ago, Triple H announced that he was very, very, very close to not making it anymore. That he was very close to dying due to a health condition. He was pretty much on the end game. He was pretty much on the brink, and luckily, thankfully, he was able to come back from that. And of course, due to all of that, due to his health condition, Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Paul Levesque needed to officially retire from in-ring competition. And as far as we know, there's no near return in sight for him as the head of WWE's developmental territory in NXT. So with all of that happening, you can understand why Stephanie McMahon is deciding to take a leave of absence from the WWE. That type of scare. Because Stephanie McMahon and Triple H have 3 daughters who are still under the age of 18. They're all still kids. And they almost just lost the head of the family, their father, Paul Levesque. They had that scare. And like I said, they're still kids. And ever since they had those 3 daughters, everything Triple H and Stephanie McMahon have been doing has been working for WWE. And WWE, like I've said, is a full-time job. It's a machine. It's a structure. It's a business that works. So, most of, if not all of your time is dedicated to that. So you can understand why Stephanie McMahon is taking a leave of absence, because she feels, much like Paul Levesque, much like Vince McMahon, I'm sure, much like their daughters, I'm sure she feels that she needs to take time to be with her family, to have some quality time, to have some real vacation family time, something that they've probably never had, because they've dedicated their entire life and pretty much their entire marriage to WWE. And this is just me speculating. I don't know any of this for a fact, so this is just me speculating. But overall, this is the right call to make, especially after the type of scare like that, with what happened with Triple H. So what if WWE has to, Nick Khan, so what if Nick Khan has to take more responsibilities in the company? So what if you can't work for the company anymore? Family and your health is the most important thing. All types of health, mental health, emotional health, actual body health, everything, all of it matters. And so I'm just happy that Stephanie McMahon was able to take this decision. And I'm hoping she enjoys her family time with Triple H and with their daughters, because it's been duly earned by all of them. And like I said, WWE is a business, and overall, that comes to second term. So with that said, what do you think about Stephanie McMahon announcing that she is taking a leave of absence? Do you think that's going to take a long while, or do you think she'll be back anytime soon? Leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions on the comments section below. And with that said, like I said, Triple H, unfortunately, hasn't been able to come back to his responsibilities as the head of NXT. I don't think that's gonna happen anytime in the near future. Like I said just a few seconds ago, focus on your health. That's the most important thing. But that hasn't prevented NXT and WWE from announcing that they are taking their developmental brand back on the road after almost 2 years of not having any live events. Over 2 years, actually, of not having any live events for the company. And it's a very, very different version of the company that didn't have any live events 2 years prior. But now, WWE's third brand in NXT is just touring Florida during the weekends, during the upcoming weekends, June 10th, June and July, most weekends are there. Tickets are available now. NXT is going back on the road. And overall, like I said, they're just touring Florida for now. But the point that I want to make right here is NXT needs to start making an effort to tape their Tuesday shows on the road. Even if it's just Florida, even if it's just to Georgia, even if it's just that southern section, even if it just becomes a developmental or regional program. You gotta start touring, you gotta start making this brand into more of a bigger thing. Because right now, what I'm seeing, at least on NXT TV, is the fans at the Performance Center, I believe, that's where they tape, pretty much just hijack the show. Much like TNA Wrestling back in the day in 2010, when they had the Impact Zone, you have a bunch of regular fans who always go to the tapings, who always go to the shows. They know exactly what's going on each and every single week. And sometimes they take matters into their own hands. We saw it late last year when MSK were being booked as babyfaces. And the fans in the Performance Center just booed them. They kept booing them no matter what kind of creative direction they were going on with the characters, no matter if they were facing some of the biggest heels in the company. They booed them. And like I said, if you're paying a ticket, especially to a wrestling event, you are entitled to be able to do that, to cheer and boo and have fun, and really just make up your own mind, make up your own decision on who is a babyface and who is a heel in your mind. But again, there were reports back then as well that fans actually organized themselves to boycott MSK at the time, to boo that tag team at that time, because they just felt like it, or because something completely aside from the storylines happened and that they weren't okay with. And like I said, from my point of view, that's not cool. That's not the best way to look at things. And like I said, if you're going to have those type of fans who are just going to hijack their show and go into business for themselves, I'd rather the company just tour, even if it's just regionally. give the show a grittier look, actually make it look legit. Not that the Performance Center and the way they've structured things, you know, isn't legit. But like I said, it's just a matter of NXT being able to tour because they have the machine behind them, they have WWE behind them, and they have the talent. And I've never been a fan, ever since TNA back in 2010, I've never been a fan of just staying in one location for a wrestling or for a sporting event. Because this isn't just a TV show, it's a sporting event. Fans all around the country, or all around the area, should be able to enjoy it if you have the money and you have the resources to do so. So again, NXT is going on the road. Couldn't be happier. And also, it gives their developmental talent, who, by the way, they need a lot of this talent to really work on their stuff, because they are green. So, you know, this builds them up. This gives them some experience of what might lie ahead for them if they ever make it to the main roster in WWE. So with that said, what do you think about my thoughts on NXT going on the road again? Do you think that they should tape their show on the road, or do you think they're perfectly fine staying at the Performance Center? And I'm just delusional, and I'm just crazy for my thoughts with the fans, with the regular fans, that they have at their tapings each and every Tuesday night. Leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions on the comment section below. And we are at the tail end of May, about to head into June, which means we're about to head into Slammiversary season. And I've been an Impact Wrestling fan since late 2009, back when it was TNA Wrestling. And back then, I was 14 years old. So, with me being 14 years old at that time, if that company, if TNA Wrestling, if I saw on TV that a company told me, this show is our biggest show, this show is our landmark show, this show is the equivalent, our equivalent of WrestleMania, we're talking about Bound for Glory, well, back then I believed it. And to be honest with you, I was delusional all the way up until 2017. Because I wanted Bound for Glory to be the equivalent of WrestleMania to TNA, to Impact Wrestling. I wanted that to be the reality. But, like I said, you got WWE, the machine, and then you got other companies down here on very much lower levels. And, you know, Impact Wrestling is one of those lower companies. There's no shame in saying that. It's just where they are. But 2018, once Scott D'Amore took over, Scott D'Amore and Don Callis, now just Scott D'Amore, and Anthem and Ed Nordholm as well, once they took over, I still wanted Bound for Glory to be the biggest show, their marquee show, but Slammiversary each and every single year has proven to be Impact Wrestling's true signature event. There's always hype surrounding this event, whether it be new debuts, whether it be new returns, whether it be the championship matches, whether it be the build to the pay-per-view itself. Somehow, the build to Bound for Glory is always lacking, and the build to Slammiversary is always hot. Doesn't matter how you switch things, doesn't matter how you actually book things, that just seems to always be the case. And this year's Slammiversary is even special because now Impact Wrestling is now 20 years old. 20 years old. We have Ultimate X returning. We have Josh Alexander, the current Impact World Champion, the current face of the company, the walking weapon, one of the best professional wrestlers in the world, bar none. Defending his Impact World Championship against a man that is the definition of Impact Wrestling. A man who's had so many gimmicks, so many name changes, and is now able to be taken seriously. And if you can't define Impact Wrestling, the former TNA Wrestling, as that, as just that, with so many incarnations, so many name changes, so many brand changes in the past, then I don't know what the hell you've been doing. I don't know if you've been watching Impact Wrestling for the past 20 years, but that is TNA. That is Impact Wrestling. And if you watched that promotional video that Impact Wrestling put together for Slammiversary, then I would be an idiot to say that if you didn't watch that, if you did watch that, and you weren't at least interested and enticed to buy the pay-per-view, to buy Slammiversary, regardless of the match card, regardless of the talent on the show, then I don't know what you are doing. Because that video package was stellar. And the past few shows, the past few Impact Plus specials on Impact Wrestling, they have been stellar as well. So again, Josh Alexander versus Eric Young is just the main event. It's just the main plate for the Slammiversary pay-per-view, which, again, I'll say it here, and I'll continue to say it for years and years to come. Slammiversary is now, and pretty much forever will be, Impact Wrestling's signature event. Their true equivalent of WrestleMania. All scales equal, you know, scale it down a bit because it is Impact Wrestling, but overall, Slammiversary is the signature event for Impact Wrestling. And I could not be more pumped to see what's going to happen, and I'm hoping, you know, they're able to work out with AEW to bring in some Joe and maybe Sting. And, you know, they're able to work out with WWE and bring AJ Styles in for that show. Mount Rushmore of Impact Wrestling: Sting, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, and Kurt Angle. That's my Mount Rushmore of Impact Wrestling. So with that said, what do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you think Slammiversary is the marquee event in all of Impact Wrestling history? Or do you think that they don't have a marquee event? Do you think that that Bound for Glory is a marquee event? What do you think? Leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions on what might happen, what might transpire June 19th, 2022 at Slammiversary in Nashville, Tennessee. So with that said, let's just try to enjoy Rampage. Let's just try to enjoy tonight's edition of SmackDown. Big title unification match, which a lot of people are speculating might not actually go through with it because they don't want to unify the titles. But who knows? And if I do have to pick one, I think it's going to go to the Usos holding both championships. But you just never know. So with that said, leave your thoughts. Nope, that's not how we end the show. Nope, sorry. Got into automatic mode. Sorry. So with that said, I've been Alexis Carrillo. Enjoy your Friday night. Watch some Rampage. Watch some SmackDown. Let's see what develops in the Sasha Banks and Naomi story. So with that said, I've been Alexis Carrillo. Have a great rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.